It's been a lifetime of...
Paul McCartney has spoken the truth he kept hidden for decades. Not through a tweet, not in an interview, but in ink, on paper, handwritten with care. And the words? They stunned the world. It came just days after Ozzy Osbourne passed, the Prince of Darkness, the godfather of heavy metal. Gone at 76, a legend, a force, a voice that rattled generations, silenced. And in the quiet that followed, something unexpected surfaced. A private letter from Paul McCartney, delivered straight to the Osbourne family. Not for headlines, not for the press, but for one moment at the funeral. What Paul wrote, it caught even Ozzy's family off guard. The letter was handed to Sharon Osbourne by one of Paul's closest reps, with a very specific request: read it only once, and only at the service. That's it. One moment, one truth. No cameras, no spotlight. Just words that carried decades of unspoken respect. It was Kelly Osbourne who stood and read it aloud at the memorial in Birmingham. In the letter, McCartney wrote, "He was the voice of darkness, but had a heart of light." Right then, you could hear the breath leave the room. Paul admitted he never said this while Ozzy was alive, that he wasn't brave enough, that for years he kept his distance, not out of hate, not even out of rivalry, just old ideas, old habits. He thought Ozzy's world and his own were too far apart, too loud, too wild, too different. But music has a way of breaking walls down. Paul said what changed him wasn't Ozzy's success. It wasn't the fame, the headlines, or even the legacy. It was Ozzy's honesty, his rawness, his loyalty to what he believed in. And over time, Paul realized that kind of truth doesn't need to match your style to earn your respect. Sharon had actually written Paul 3 days before the funeral. She told him Ozzy's health was slipping fast and asked if he'd write something. Paul didn't respond right away, but that same night alone, he sat down. No team, no PR, just pen and paper. And he wrote from the heart. He signed it by hand. The closing line? His music was not like mine, but what I felt from him was always real. If I ever owed anyone an acknowledgement, it was to Ozzy Osbourne. He also included a sheet of music, In My Life, the Beatles classic. Ozzy had recorded it once, years back, for a solo project. Called it the only song that ever made me stop and be silent. Paul knew that. That's why he sent it. A sign, a connection. A quiet bridge between two giants who'd walked separate roads, but left footprints on the same history. It wasn't always that way. Years ago, Ozzy had asked Paul to collaborate. Not just once, multiple times. He even pitched a heavy metal spin on a Beatles track. Paul turned it down. Not out of disrespect, but because, back then, he wasn't ready to see past their musical divide. Ozzy never took it personally. He called it a missed chance, but never held a grudge. And privately, he kept covering Beatles songs in the studio. Paul never blocked it, never pulled copyright. That silence, that was approval. Quiet recognition, artist to artist. They never made a record together, never shared a stage. But behind the scenes, there was something more powerful, mutual respect. Respect that didn't need words, until now. At Ozzy's funeral, McCartney's letter was framed. Alongside it, the original score to In My Life, both now part of the Osbourne family archive. No press release followed, no social media tribute. Paul let the letter speak once, and that was enough. Ozzy had spent his final years in pain, spinal surgeries, progressive nerve damage, Parkinson's. He lost the ability to stand, to move, but not his mind, not his voice. He planned his last show down to the inch, because if he was going to go out doing what he loved. That final performance in Birmingham was more than a farewell. It was defiance, against time, against pain, against silence. He sang seated with stabilization gear hidden behind the set. The stage had been custom built for safety. But what came through? That was all Ozzy. And after that, he was done. No more media, no more appearances, no pity. Behind closed doors, the Osbournes coordinated his final treatments. Multidisciplinary care, legal preparations. He was in full control, right until the very end. His will, his rights, his name, all locked in. No chaos, just dignity. His death was not sudden. It was slow, steady, and expected, a medically guided goodbye with no pain, no panic, just peace. The funeral itself, private, no cameras, no crowd, just family, longtime friends, and that one letter, read aloud once, then placed in the family records. McCartney's tribute closed a loop few even knew existed. 2 artists, 2 worlds, 1 truth. "We write in different languages," McCartney wrote, "but we express the same kind of feeling. Faithfulness to what cannot be changed." He said what no chart, no critic, no award could ever say. That difference doesn't divide greatness. It defines it. Ozzy Osbourne left behind more than music. He left behind authenticity, loyalty, power. And now, even the voice behind Let It Be has said what we all needed to hear. Real recognizes real.